So what does Zohran Mamdani's win mean for America, for New York? Democrats, have they got a formula now to take on Donald Trump? Will the New York City result lead to further polarization? Just some of the contentious issues I want to raise today on a day which, as I said, a slice of history has been created in America. I'm joined by Aatish Taseer, author, columnist, someone who has lived in New York for years, Irfan Nooruddin, professor, Georgetown University, Mumbai boy who now lives in Washington. But first you, Aatish, what did this day mean for New York? I see the smile on your face. Is this, in a sense, a rejection of Donald Trump or a triumph of what Zohran Mamdani stood for?
I mean, Rajdeep, just on a purely emotional level, and believe me, I have many policy differences aside, to see like Dhoom Machale Dhoom playing like in New York City, to hear Panditji's words like ringing out from like the next mayor of the city, deeply emotional. I mean, you know, all political differences aside, kind of just it really sort of gave you a catch at the heart to see someone like you, like the same color, shape, size as you, to see his mother who looks like my mother, like all of these things, like for me right now, at least, like they kind of like, I was surprised by how powerful a feeling it was.
Where did that spark, is this sort of after a year in which there has been an anti-immigrant rhetoric, then to find someone of South Asian origin, of Ugandan, Indian parentage, becoming the mayor? Was it that because of the last 12 months, what it's meant to several Americans, a sense that maybe there is an America which still believes in the idea of multiculturalism?
Well, exactly that. And also, you know, he was under so much pressure to kind of bend, and he did retain an integrity. It might not be your position, but his willingness to kind of stand up for things, stand up for what he believed in, and to let the chips fall as they would, that was, politically, it was very powerful.
You know, you're saying it was a politically powerful message. Irfan Nooruddin, there has been a rising tide of Islamophobia in America and indeed several parts of the world. Is New York an exception because of the nature of New York? And New York is not America. Zohran Mamdani can't win, for example, in the Midwest. Therefore, are we, in a way, hyping it up a bit more than it actually, than what it means? Is New York always an outlier?
And first, I mean, in honor of his mother, I think we should say Salam New York on this morning, right? Just like she once made that beautiful movie about my and your city, Salam Bombay. Look, I mean, New York is unusual. It's atypical. It's brilliant. It's complicated. It's messy. But at the end of the day, what you have over here is a young politician who seems to have captured a particular zeitgeist, giving voice to young people. And of course, as Aatish so powerfully said, to people who look, sound, remind us of sort of who we are and where we came from. And I think that appeals broader than just New York. The particular rhetoric, right, the democratic socialism, the overt support for the Palestinian people and for Palestinian rights, that probably doesn't transfer very well outside of Manhattan and outside of the 5 boroughs. But on the flip side, the notion that a politician who's aggressively progressive, who talks about economic issues, who takes back from the Republicans this mantle of economic populism, can win an election in a very large, complicated city, I think that does transfer. So while we'll be talking about Mr. Mamdani right now, I mean, in Cincinnati, Ohio, Aftab Pureval won the mayoral election, defeating, in fact, J.D. Vance's brother-in-law, right? And this is the man whose name is Aftab Pureval, and he wins an election in Cincinnati, Ohio, to be the mayor of that town. So Cincinnati is far more like what we might think of as being a typical American city. And even there, an immigrant of South Asian heritage is winning a mayoral election over someone who's literally the brother-in-law of the vice president of the United States and stands for something very different. The other part of it is, while we'll talk about the mayoral election, and Mr. Mamdani deserves all the attention he's getting this morning, in New Jersey, a Democratic woman wins the governor's race. In Virginia, a Democratic woman wins the Democratic race. In Virginia, a black man wins the attorney general's race, a very contested race that he, for a while, looked like he may have damaged himself on. So I think and of course in California, the voters overwhelmingly support uh, a motion
Right.
to make it much easier to redistrict. So across the country, this was as good a day that the Democrats could have dreamed of. I do think it sort of will reinsert a certain optimism and a certain aggressiveness as they think about the next year. But I think, as your question suggests, simply thinking
Right.
that Mamdani's formula can be translated elsewhere, that would be a mistake.
You know, Aatish, in a way, therefore, here comes someone who's challenging the Trump establishment, the new Trump establishment. It's the story of the underdog. For immigrants who've gone to America, made their lives, does he therefore symbolize hope? When he speaks about economic equality, he's dubbed, of course, a communist by some, democratic socialist by others. But does he symbolize above all else hope, much like Barack Obama did all those years ago? Does it mark another shift in that sense in the mood in America?
I mean, Rajdeep, there's also another wrinkle, right? I live in a very Jewish neighborhood and it's very divided. So the older Jewish people are very, very skeptical, and the younger Jewish people are very much in support. But one of the things I hear a lot in New York, they say about Indians, oh, you're the new Jews, meaning that you are like a kind of global aristocracy. And this is very much a child of global aristocracy coming into politics at a moment of cultural warfare. At a moment when, it used to be that brown, yellow, black people were kind of encircled by the white man's gaze and the white man's power. And now traffic is moving in the other direction. So, in a sense, it's not quite as underdog as all of that. Like we're setting up a much more contentious political battle, which will be used against us.
It's interesting the way you're putting it at the moment, but clearly what we've seen today in America has brought a smile to many faces, particularly, I think, for those immigrants who've made their lives in America the land of hope and of dreams being fulfilled. And Zohran Mamdani is a great story in that sense. And to do it at such a young age makes it perhaps even more energizing, if anything else. Aatish Taseer, Professor Nooruddin, for joining me here today on the news today. Thanks very much. Not to forget that slice of Jawaharlal Nehru, as you put it, that in a sense was a moment where India seemed to arrive once again in a strange way on the world stage. Just when you thought there was no space for Jawaharlal, he comes back like a ghost who you can never get away from. Thanks to both of you for joining me there from New York and Washington.